back to Storytime with YDRC. Today we're going to be continuing to read Warriors, The Forest of Secrets. Last time we left off right at the beginning of Chapter 9, so let's going to continue for this episode. So, let's get started. Chapter 9. In Yellowfang's den, Fireheart explained what had happened while Cinderpaw inspected the gash on Brackenpaw's leg and brought him a poultice to put on it. "You'd better rest here tonight," the gray she-cat told the apprentice. "But I'm pretty sure your leg will be good as new in a day or two," she spoke cheerfully, without any bitterness that her own leg would recover so well. Turning to Fireheart, she added, "I just had Cloudkit in here. He told me he had to go over to the elders' coats for ticks, so I gave him some mouse bile." "What's that for?" asked Brackenpaw. "If you put some on ticks, they soon drop off," Cinderpaw told him. Her blue eyes glimmered with amusement. "But don't lick your paws afterward. It's foul stuff." "I'm sure Cloudkit will enjoy doing that," Fireheart grimaced. "It's a pity that Tigerclaw had to punish him, though, because I don't think it was his fault that the badger attacked him." Cinderpaw shrugged. "There's no arguing with Tigerclaw." "That's true," Fireheart agreed. "Anyway, I think I'll go and make sure that Cloudkit's okay." As soon as he set paw in the elders' den, his nose wrinkled against the reek of mouse bile. Small Ear was lying on one side while Cloudkit searched his gray fur for ticks. The elder twitched as Cloudkit dabbed some of the bile inside his hind leg. "Watch it, young kit. Keep your claws sheathed." "They are sheathed," muttered Cloudkit, his face screwed up with disgust. "Here, that's got it. You're done, Small Ear." Dabbletail, who had been watching intently, glanced around at Fireheart. "Your kin is very efficient, Fireheart," she rasped. "No, Cloudkit," she added as the kit started toward her, carrying the bile-soaked moss. "I'm sure I've no ticks, and I wouldn't wake One Eye if I were you." She nodded to where the old cat was sleeping, curled up beside the trunk of the fallen tree. "She won't thank you for disturbing her." Cloudkit looked around hopefully. None of the other elders were here. "Can I go then?" he asked. "You can see to One Eye later," Fireheart meowed. "Meanwhile, you'd better get the dirty bedding out of here. Come on, I'll help you." "And make sure the new lot's dry," growled Small Ear. Together, Fireheart and Cloudkit raked out the old moss and heather and made several trips to carry it out of the camp. Fireheart showed Cloudkit how to clean the mouse bile from his paws by rubbing them in the snow. "Now we'll go and fetch some fresh moss," he meowed. "Come on, I know a good place." "I'm tired," Cloudkit complained as he trailed after Fireheart. "I don't want to do this." "Well, too bad. You have to," Fireheart retorted. "Cheer up. It could be worse. Did I tell you that when I was an apprentice I had to look after Yellowfang all on my own?" "Yellowfang?" Cloudkit's eyes widened. "Phew, I bet she was a grump. Did she claw you?" "Only with her tongue," Fireheart replied, "and that's sharp enough." Cloudkit let out a purr of laughter. To Fireheart's relief, he stopped complaining, and when they came to the patch of deep moss, he did his share of digging it out of the snow, and copied Fireheart as he showed him how to shake the worst of the moisture off. They were returning to the camp, their jaws laden with moss, when Fireheart saw a cat slip out of the gorse tunnel and bound up the side of the ravine. The massive body and stripped pelt was unmistakable. It was Tigerclaw. Fireheart narrowed his eyes. The deputy had looked almost furtive, peering around before he left the tunnel and disappearing over the lip of the ravine as fast as possible. Fireheart felt uneasy. Something wasn't quite right. "Cloudkit," he meowed, dropping his wad of moss on the ground. "Take your load of bedding into the elders. Then come back for mine. There's something I've got to do." Cloudkit mewed in agreement through his mouthful of moss and carried on toward the tunnel. Fireheart turned and raced back up the slope to the place where Tigerclaw had disappeared. The clan deputy was out of sight, but between his scent trail and the massive paw prints in the snow, Fireheart had no difficulty following him. He took care not to catch up, in case Tiger Claw saw or smelled him. The trail led unwaveringly through the tall pines, past Tree Cut Place. Fireheart realized with a jolt that Tiger Claw had been heading for Two Leg Place. His heart lurched with fear. Was the deputy on his way to find Princess, Fireheart's sister? Maybe he was so angry with Cloud Kit that he wanted to hurt the kit's mother. Fireheart had never told the clan exactly where Princess lived, but it wouldn't be impossible for Tiger Claw to pick up her scent from his knowledge of Cloud Kits. He kept low, careful to move silently. As the trail wound through a clump of gorse, a movement in the corner of his eye caught his attention. It was a mouse, scuffling under one of the bushes. Fireheart did not want to stop and hunt, but this mouse was practically begging to be caught. Instinctively, his body dropped into a hunting crouch as he crept up on the prey. His pounce landed him squarely on top of it, and he took a moment longer to bury it in the snow before he began to follow Tiger Claw again. Fireheart moved more quickly now, afraid of what the deputy might have done in the time he had delayed. As he rounded the stump of a fallen tree, he practically collided with Tiger Claw himself, looping around in the opposite direction. The deputy reared back in surprise. "Mouse brain!" he hissed. "What are you doing here?" Fireheart's first reaction was one of relief. Tiger Claw hadn't possibly had time to reach the Two Leg Place and harm Princess already. Then he realized that the deputy was glaring at him with a look of deep suspicion in his amber eyes. He mustn't know I was following him, Fireheart thought desperately. I came to show Cloud Kit a good place to find bedding, he stammered, and then I thought I might as well hunt for a bit. I don't see any prey, growled Tiger Claw. It's buried just back there. Fireheart jerked his head in the direction he had come. The warrior narrowed his eyes. Show me. Furious that Tiger Claw didn't believe him, but also deeply relieved at the luck that had led him to catch prey, Fireheart had led the way back along the trail and scraped the snow away from the mouse he had just buried. Satisfied? The clan deputy frowned at him. Fireheart could almost read his thoughts. He was dying to blame Fireheart for something, but couldn't manage it this time. At last he grunted, "Get on with it, then." He dipped his head to pick up Fireheart's mouse and marched off in the direction of the camp. Fireheart watched him go, then started running along the trail again, toward the Two Leg Place. Yep, he could at least find out where Tiger Claw had been. He swiveled his ears backward from time to time. He wouldn't put it past Tiger Claw to turn back and follow him. But he heard nothing, and gradually he began to relax. Tiger Claw's scent came to an end near the fences that enclosed the two-leg territory. Fireheart walked back and forth under the trees, studying the ground. The snow was churned up by the marks of many paws, too many for him to read. There were many strange scents, too. Several cats had been here, and recently. Fireheart wrinkled his nose in disgust. The cat scents were muddled up with those of long-dead prey and the stink of two-leg rubbish. Except for Tiger Claw's own scent, it was impossible to identify any of them. Thinking deeply, Fireheart sat washing his paws. There was no way of telling whether Tiger Claw had met these unknown cats or whether he had just crossed their trail. He was just about to set off for the camp again when he heard a meow from behind him. "Fireheart! Fireheart!" Springing to his paws, he rolled around. Sitting on the fence at the end of her two-leg garden was his sister, Princess. Instantly, Fireheart raced across the fence and leaped up beside her. Princess broke into a deep, throaty purr and rubbed the side of her face against his. "Fireheart, you're so thin!" she exclaimed, pulling away from him. "Are you getting enough to eat?" "No, nor is any cat in the clan," Fireheart admitted. "Prey is scarce in this weather." "Are you hungry now?" his sister asked. "There's a bowl of food in my two-legs nest. You can have it if you like." For a couple of heartbeats, Fireheart was tempted. His mouth watered at the thought of filling his belly with food he hadn't had to catch first. But common sense had won. He couldn't possibly return to camp with two-leg scents all over him, and the warrior code forbade him to eat before feeding the rest of the clan. "Thanks, Princess, but I can't." "I hope you're feeding Cloud Kit," Princess mewed anxiously. "I've been watching for you for days, so you can tell me how he is." "He's doing well. Fireheart replied. He'll make an apprentice soon. Princess's eyes shone with pride, and Fireheart felt a prickle of uncertainty in his fur. He knew how much it meant to his sister to have given her firstborn to the clan. There was no way he could let her have any doubts about how the kid was settling into clan life. Cloud Kid's strong and brave, he told her, and intelligent. And nosy, spoiled, disrespectful, he added to himself. But surely Cloud Kid would learn soon enough, when he grew used to clan ways. I'm sure he'll make a fine warrior. He meowed. Princess purred. Of course he will, with you to teach him. Fireheart's ears twitched with embarrassment. Princess thought he found it easy being a warrior. She didn't know the problems he had inside the clan, or how difficult it was to decide what was the right thing to do whenever he discovered things that affected the clan. I'd better go, he mewed. I'll come to visit you again soon, and when New Leaf comes, I'll bring Cloud Kid with me. He gave Princess an affectionate lick in farewell and left her purring even harder at the thought of seeing her beloved kid again. Fireheart padded back along Tiger Claw's scent trail, keeping a lookout for prey as he went. After telling Tiger Claw he was hunting, he knew he had better return to camp with a respectable catch. Gradually, he became aware of an unfamiliar sound. He had to pause to think before he realized what it was. Somewhere, water was dripping. Glancing around, he saw a silver globule bulging at the end of a thorn twig. The droplets swelled and glittered in the sunlight before falling to melt a tiny hole in the snow. Fireheart raised his head. The patter of water was all around him now, and a warm breeze ruffled his fur. With a surge of joy, he realized that the harsh season of leaf bear was drawing to an end. Soon, New Leaf would come, and prey would be plentiful again. The thaw had begun. Chapter 10. Back in the camp, Fireheart spotted Bluestar leaving the nursery. Quickly, he dropped his catch on the fresh kill pile and padded over to her. Yes, Fireheart, what is it? The leader asked. Her voice was calm, but with a stinking feeling. Fireheart knew that the lack of warmth meant she had not forgiven him for asking about the missing ThunderClan kits. He lowered his head respectfully. Bluestar, I was hunting near Two-Leg Place and... Why there? Bluestar interrupted. Sometimes I think you spend too much time near Two-Leg Place, Fireheart. I just thought there might be prey there, Fireheart stammered. Anyway, while I was there, I smelled some strange cats. At once, Bluestar was alert. Her ears flicked up, and she fixed her eyes intently on Fireheart. How many cats? What clan were they from? I'm not sure how many, Fireheart admitted. 5 or 6 at least. But they didn't have the scent of any clan. He wrinkled his nose as he remembered. They smelled of crow food, which made me sure they weren't kitty pets. Bluestar looked thoughtful, and to Fireheart's relief, her hostility toward him seemed to ebb away. How recent was the scent? She asked. Quite recent. But I didn't see any cats there. Except Tiger Claw, he added silently. But Fireheart decided not to tell Bluestar that part of the story. The leader was in no mood to listen to any more accusations against her deputy, and he had no evidence anyway that Tiger Claw had had anything to do with the unknown cats. Rogues from the Two-Leg Place, perhaps? Bluestar guessed. Thank you, Fireheart. I'll tell the patrols to keep a lookout when they go that way. I don't suppose they're any threat to ThunderClan, but we can't be too careful. Fireheart padded toward the camp with a vole clamped firmly in his jaws. The sun shone from a brilliantly blue sky. And already, 2 days after his meeting with Princess, most of the snow was gone. Buds were swelling, and a mist of tiny green leaves was beginning to cover the trees. More important, prey was reappearing in the forest. Already, it was easier to replenish the pile of fresh kill, and for the first time in moons, the clan was full-fed. Fireheart arrived in the clearing to find Queens raking old bedding out of the nursery. When he had dropped his prey on the pile of fresh kill, he went across to give them a hand, pleased to see that Cloud Kid was helping too. I'm going to show the other kids the moss place, the kid mewed proudly as he staggered past with a load of bedding. Good idea, Fireheart agreed. He noticed that Even after Tiger Claw relieved him of his duties with the elders, Cloud Kit had gone on helping. Maybe at last the Kit was feeling some spark of loyalty toward his adopted clan. Watch out for badgers, though. Just then, he saw Goldenflower emerge from the nursery, pushing a ball of soiled moss in front of her. Her belly was round with the weight of the kits she was carrying. "Hello, Fireheart," she meowed. "Isn't it great to see the sun again?" Fireheart gave the queen's shoulder a friendly lick. "Soon it'll be New Leaf," he mewed. "Just in time for your kits." He broke off and spun around as he heard Tiger Claw's voice behind him, speaking his name. "Fireheart, if you have nothing better to do than stand gossiping with the queens, I have a better job for you." Fireheart bit back an angry response. He'd been hunting all morning and paused only for a few moments to talk to Goldenflower. "I want you to take a patrol along the border of RiverClan," the deputy went on. "No cat has been that way for a few days, and now the snow has gone, we need to renew the scent markings. And make sure no RiverClan cats are hunting in our territory. If they are, you know what to do." "Yes, Tiger Claw," Fireheart mewed. Hedgehogs must be growing wings, he thought, if Tiger Claw had chosen him to lead a patrol. Then he realized that Tiger Claw was too clever to behave hostilely toward him in public. The deputy would be careful to treat him just the same as any other clan warrior, in case Blue Star noticed. "I still don't trust you," Fireheart thought. Aloud he meowed, "Whom shall I take with me?" "Any cat you like. Or do you need me to hold your paw?" Tiger Claw added with a sneer. "No, Tiger Claw." By now, Fireheart could barely keep his tongue curled. He would have loved to swipe a claw over the deputy's scarred muzzle. He made a hasty goodbye to Goldenflower and headed for the warrior's den. Sandstorm was there, lying on her side and energetically washing, while Greystripe and Running Wind shared tongues nearby. "Who's up for a patrol?" Fireheart called. "Tiger Claw wants us to check the RiverClan border." Greystripe scrambled to his paws right away at the mention of RiverClan, while Running Wind got up more slowly. Sandstorm paused in her washing and looked up at Fireheart. "Just when I was hoping for a bit of peace," he complained. "I've been hunting since dawn." But her tone was good humor, not remotely as unfriendly as she was when he had first arrived in the clan, Fireheart thought, and almost at once she got up and shook herself. "All right," she mewed. "Lead on." "What about Brackenpaw?" Fireheart asked Greystripe. "Do you want to bring him along?" "Whitestorm and Mousefur took all of the apprentices out," Running Wind explained. "All of the apprentices." "More fool them. They're hunting fresh kill for the elders." Fireheart led the way out of the camp, feeling a tingle in his paws as he leaped up the side of the ravine. It felt like moons since he had had a good run without snow to freeze his paws off, and he wanted to stretch his muscles. "We'll head for Sunning Rocks," he meowed, "and then follow the border up to Four Trees." He set a brisk pace through the trees, but not so fast that he failed to notice the brilliant green fronds of new bracken beginning to unfurl, or the first pale buds of primroses pushing out of their green coverings. Birdsong filled the air, and the fresh scent of growing things. He slowed down to a walk as the patrol approached the edge of the forest. Ahead of him, he could hear the sound of the river, free at last from its bonds of ice. We're almost at the border," he meowed quietly. "From here on, we have to keep alert. There may be RiverClan cats about." Greystripe stopped and opened his jaws to drink in any scent from the breeze. "I can't smell any," he reported. Fireheart wondered if he was disappointed that Silverstream wasn't nearby. "Besides, they'll have plenty of prey now that the river's unfrozen," Greystripe added. "Why should they come and steal ours?" "I wouldn't put anything past RiverClan," growled Running Wind. "They'd steal the fur off your back if you didn't keep an eye on them." Fireheart saw Greystripe beginning to bristle. "Come on then," he meowed hastily, trying to distract his friend before he said something to give away his divided loyalties. "Let's go." He raced away through the last of the trees and burst onto open ground. What he had saw there brought him skidding to a halt, and the memory of his dream crashed into his mind like a thunderclap. In front of the cats, the land sloped gently down to the river, or what had been the river. Swelled by the melting snow, the fast-flowing water had burst the banks and risen until it lapped the grass barely a rabbit length from Fireheart's paws. The tips of the reeds just showed above it. Farther upstream, the sunning rocks were gray islands in the midst of a shimmering silver lake. The thaw had certainly come, but now the river was in full flood. Chapter 11. Great Star Clan, breathed Sandstorm. The other two cats grunted in agreement. But Fireheart was speechless with horror. He had instantly recognized the shining expanse of the water, and now he recalled Spottedleaf's ominous words. Water can quench fire. Fear chilled him as he struggled to understand how this flood could threaten his clan, so that he was hardly aware of Greystripe trying to attract his attention until the big gray cat pressed up close to his side. Panic flared in Greystripe's amber eyes, and Fireheart didn't need to ask why. His friend was afraid for Silverstream. The land was lower on the River Clan bank, so the floodwaters could spread up much farther. As for the camp on the island, Fireheart wondered how much of that was underwater. He had grown to like Silverstream in spite of his concerns, and he felt a grudging respect for Mistyfoot and Greypool, too. He didn't want to imagine them driven out of their camp, or worse, drowned. Running Wind had padded right to the water's edge and was gazing out across the river. River Clan is not going to like this, he remarked. And a good thing, too. It'll keep them off our territory. Fireheart felt Greystripe tense at the note of satisfaction in Running Wind's voice. He shot his friend a warning glance. Well, we can't patrol the border now, he pointed out. We'd better get back to the camp and report this. Come on, Greystripe, he added firmly, seeing the warrior look once more with anguish across the swollen river. As soon as Bluestar heard the news, she leaped to the top of the high rock and gave the familiar call. Let all cats old enough to catch their own prey join here beneath the high rock for a clan meeting. At once, the cats began to pour out of their dens and into the clearing. Fireheart took his place at the front of the crowd, noticing with a prickle of annoyance that Cloudkit had come bouncing along after Brindleface, although he was too young to attend the meeting. He saw Yellowfang and Cinderpaw listening from the mouth of the fern tunnel. Even Broken-Tail emerged from his den, nudged along by Mousefur. The bright morning was coming to an end. Clouds were massing to cover the face of the sun, and the gentle breeze had strengthened until a stiff wind blew across the clearing, flattening the fur of the cats who crouched around the high rock. Fireheart shivered, and didn't know whether it was from cold or apprehension. Cats of ThunderClan, meowed Bluestar. Our camp may be in danger. The snow has gone, but the river has burst its banks. Part of our territory is already flooded. A chorus of dismay rose from the clan, but Bluestar raised her voice above the yowls. Fireheart, tell the clan what you have seen. Fireheart stood up and described how the river had overflowed near the Sunning Rocks. It doesn't sound that dangerous to us, meowed Darkstripe as he had finished. We have plenty of territory left for prey. Let RiverClan worry about the floods. A murmur of approval broke out, although Fireheart noticed that Tigerclaw stayed silent. He sat at the base of the high rock, motionless except for the twitching tip of his tail. Silence, spat Bluestar. The water could spread here before we know it. Something like this is bigger than clan rivalry. I don't want to hear that any RiverClan cats have died from these floods. Fireheart noticed a hot glow in her eyes as she spoke, as if her words meant more than she had said. Puzzled, he remembered how angry Bluestar had been with him for speaking to RiverClan warriors. Yet now her strength of feeling suggested a current of sympathy running deep within her. Patchpelt spoke up from among the elders. I remember last time the river overflowed, many moons ago. Cats from all clans drowned. Prey drowned too. And if we went hungry even though our paws stayed dry. This is not just RiverClan's problem. Well said, Patchpelt, meowed Bluestar. I remember those days too, and I hoped I would never have to see such times again. But since it has happened, these are my orders. No cat is to go out alone. Kits and apprentices must not leave the camp without at least one warrior. Patrols will go out to discover how far the floods reach. Tigerclaw, see to it. Yes, Bluestar, meowed the deputy. I'll send out hunting patrols too. We must build up a stock of prey before the water rises any farther. Good idea, agreed Bluestar. She raised her voice again to address the whole clan. The meeting is over. Go to your duties. She leaped down lightly from the high rock and padded across to talk with Patchpelt and the other elders. Fireheart was debating to see if Tigerclaw would choose him for a patrol when he noticed Graystripe edging away from the circle of cats. Fireheart headed after him and caught up just as he broke for the gorse tunnel. Where do you think you're going? He hissed in the Grey Warrior's ear. Bluestar just said no cat should go out alone. Graystripe turned a panicky look on him. Fireheart, I have to see Silverstream, he protested. I have to be sure she's okay. Fireheart let out a long sigh of exasperation. He understood how his friend was feeling, but he could hardly have chosen a worse time to go visiting his mate. How will you get across the river? He asked. I'll manage, Graystripe promised grimly. It's only water. Don't be such a mouse brain, Fireheart spat, remembering the time Graystripe had fallen through the ice, when Silverstream had rescued him. You nearly drowned once before. Wasn't that enough for you? Graystripe didn't answer. He just swung around and made for the tunnel again. Fireheart glanced over his shoulder. The other cats in the clearing were breaking up into small groups under Tigerclaw's direction, ready to go out on patrol. Stop, Graystripe, he hissed, halting his friend at the entrance to the tunnel. Wait there. Once he was sure Graystripe had done as he asked, he bounded across the clearing toward the deputy. Hey, Tigerclaw, he meowed. Graystripe and I are ready to go. We'll check the RiverClan boundary downstream of Sunning Rocks, all right? Tigerclaw narrowed his eyes, clearly displeased that Fireheart had taken it upon himself to choose which area he was going to patrol. But he had no reason to refuse, especially with Bluestar in earshot. All right, he growled. Try to bring back some prey as well. Yes, Tigerclaw, Fireheart replied, dipping his head before turning to race back to Graystripe. Okay, he panted. We're on patrol, so at least no cat will wonder where we've gone. But you... Graystripe began to protest. I know you have to go, Fireheart meowed, but I'm coming with you. He felt a prickle of guilt as he spoke. Even on patrol, he and Graystripe wouldn't be expected to cross clan boundaries. Bluestar would be furious if she knew that two of her warriors were risking their lives to go into enemy territory, when their own clan needed them so badly. But Fireheart couldn't just stand there and let Graystripe go alone. His friend could be swept away in the floods and never return. Thanks, Fireheart, murmured Graystripe as they left the tunnel. I won't forget this. Side by side, the two warriors scrambled up the steep rocky slope. As they headed into the forest, retracing the steps of their earlier patrol, Fireheart noticed how muddy the ground was under paw. The melted snow had soaked the earth like the heaviest rainfall, even without the deadly spread of floodwater from the river. When they reached the edge of the trees, Fireheart realized that the water had risen even farther. The Sunning Rocks were almost submerged now, and the current swirled around them in tight circles. We'll never make it across there, he meowed. Let's head downstream, Graystripe suggested. We might be able to use the stepping stones. We can try, Fireheart mewed uncertainly. He was about to follow his friend when he thought he heard something. A thin wailing sound, above the wind and the rushing of the torrent. Wait, he called. Did you hear that? Graystripe looked back, and both cats stood, ears pricked, straining to catch the sound. Then Fireheart heard it again, the panic-stricken mewing of kits in distress. Where are they? He meowed, looking all around and up into the trees. I can't see them. There. Graystripe flicked his tail in the direction of the Sunning Rocks. Fireheart, they'll drown! Fireheart saw that the current had driven a mat of twigs and debris up against the sunning rocks. The two kids balanced precariously on it, their tiny mouths stretched wide as they wailed for help. Even as Fireheart watched, the current tugged at the mat, threatening to sweep it away. "Come on," he yelled to Graystripe. "We've got to reach them somehow." Taking a deep breath, he waded into the flood. The water soaked into his fur at once, and a paralyzing icy chill crept up his legs. The tug of the current made it harder to stay on his paws with every step he took. Graystripe splashed in behind him, but when the water reached his belly fur, he stopped. "Fireheart!" he choked out. Fireheart twisted around and gave him a comforting nod. He could understand how the river might terrify Graystripe after his near drowning a few months ago. "Stay there," he meowed. "I'll try to push the mat over to you." Graystripe nodded, trembling too violently to speak. Fireheart waded forward a few more paces, then launched himself into the current and began to swim, thrashing his legs instinctively to push himself through the black water. They were upstream of the sunning rocks. If Starclan was kind, he should be carried down toward the kids. For a moment, he lost sight of them in the wind-ruffled waves, though he could still hear their terrified cries. Then the smooth gray bulk of a sunning rock loomed up beside him. He kicked out strongly, fearing for one panic-stricken heartbeat that he would be swept right past. The current swirled. Fireheart's paws worked furiously, and the river tossed him against the rock, driving the breath out of his body. He scrappled at the rough surface, bracing himself against the rushing water, and found himself face to face with the two kids. They were both very small, suckling from their mother, Fireheart guessed. One was black and one gray, their fur plastered against their tiny bodies, and their brilliant blue eyes wide with terror. They were crouched on a tangled mat for twigs, leaves, and two-legged rubbish. But when they saw Fireheart, they started to scramble toward him. The mat lurched and their wails grew louder as the river water sloshed over them. "Keep still!" Fireheart gasped, paddling madly against the current. Briefly, he wondered if he could climb onto the rock and haul the kids up with him, but he was not sure how long it would be before the sunning rocks were completely submerged. His best plan was still to push the mat over to Graystripe. Looking back, he saw that his friend had already moved downstream, into a good position to catch the mat as it swept toward him. "Here we go!" Fireheart muttered. "Starclan, help us!" He pushed himself off from the rock, thrusting at the mat with his muzzle to guide it into the current. The two kids whimpered and flattened themselves against the twigs. Fireheart put every last scrap of energy into pushing the mat ahead of him with his nose and paws. He could feel exhaustion draining the strength from his limbs. His fur was soaked, and he was so cold he could hardly breathe. Raising his head and blinking water out of his eyes, he realized with horror that he had lost sight of Graystripe and the bank. It seemed as if there were nothing in the world but churning water, a fragile mat of twigs, and the two terrified kids. Then he heard Graystripe's voice, sounding close by. "Fireheart! Fireheart, here!" Fireheart thrust again at the mat, trying to propel it toward the voice. It spun away from him and his head went under. Coughing and choking, he clawed his way back to the surface, to see Graystripe pacing on dry land just a few tail lengths away. For a heartbeat, Fireheart felt relief that he was nearly there. Then he focused his blurred eyes on the kids again, and fear pulsed through him. The mat was beginning to break up. Fireheart watched helplessly as the twigs underneath the gray kit gave way and the tiny creature was plunged into the torrent. Alright, so that's where we're going to end off this episode of Warriors, the Forest of Secrets. Now, as always, before I end it off, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. That's it. Bye, guys!